Happy New Year, everybody. This is Dexter B. Jenkins, and welcome to Let's Talk Real Estate. We are in the studio of New England Christian Television Network with a live studio audience. Come on, audience. Yeah! And we are a group of individuals, who believe in the power of real estate. And what we really do is get together is show each other or sharpen one another and learn how to use real estate as a wealth creation tool, as well as financial literacy. And so that's what we've been doing for the last 6 or 7 months. And so this is our brand new year. This is, if you know anything about me and the tribes that I sort of hang out with, 2023 is a year of getting started, meaning this is not the year we're talking about, this is the year we're going to be about it. So, that mind, I got one of my dear friends' name is Donald Wright. He works with the city. And so I said, City of Boston, I said, this would be a great time to bring him in and talk about the opportunities with the city and so on and so forth. And so without further ado, would you guys give a round of applause for Donald Wright?
Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, Donald and I met, just to give you guys a background, easily 5 or 6 years ago. We were laughing because I was saying his son was 15 when we first met. Now he's a senior at Curry. So that's how long ago we met. And obviously we all lost years with the pandemic. And so you saw when do we see each other last? Yeah. And so it's been a minute, but he's always been a resource when I needed something around real estate in regards to the city. So you know what I said, I want to have him kick off this year and get a sense of what are the opportunities that the city of Boston have for both people who are just trying to buy their first time property, but then also for folks who want to do it on a bigger level. Maybe they have some property, but they want to learn how to do some things in the city. And so Donald's here tonight to talk to us about that. So without further ado, we're going to turn over the floor to him. But what I want to do is, Donald, introduce yourself to the people, because you know me, you better than I know you. Introduce yourself to the people, what you do for the city, and then we'll go from there.
All right. Well, thank you, Pastor Dexter. Donald Wright again. I'm the Deputy Director of the Real Estate Management and Sales Division in the city of Boston. Our division is responsible for the care, custody, and ultimate sale of tax foreclosed property. And my background in this is prior to coming to the city, I worked for a real estate investment trust company for about 10 years. Really got my feet wet, really got excited about what I was learning in that space. Avalon Bay, great company to work for. A lot of cash flow.
Deep pockets.
Deep pockets, to say the least. But what it did, though, working with them gave me a real insight to property management on one end and construction development on the other end. And it really kind of got my juices going. And I said, wow, I can do this.
Right.
And as I started to do research, I realized that there's not a lot of us in this space, and especially on a corporate level of that size. So what it did, it sort of got me to a place where I had to now reposition myself. Right. We're talking about new year, right? We're talking about this being the year of getting started. I realized there were some things that I needed to do to be better prepared for me, right, to work in this space. So I went to Northeastern and I got my MBA from Northeastern. Sometime after that, it was really interesting. Got a call from a friend, said, hey, you know what? There's a great opportunity in the city. Right. Never thought about the city. Never thought about it. My office was on Boylston Street. I drove through it because I live in Dorchester. Drove to my office and I would come back, spend a lot of my resources in and around Newbury, Boylston, and that sort of thing. But once I got introduced to that position, thank you, appreciate it. I do have a.
It's all good.
Yep. See, when I had hair, you couldn't see this, right? So that's the issue. Thank you.
And these lights are hot.
Yep. And so when I got the call about the city, what it gave me was an opportunity to look at our neighborhoods, our streetscape, our context, building types like I never had before. It was the opportunity to take what the city had in foreclosed property and get it back on the tax roll, and I would have an opportunity to do that. Exciting. And so I've been with the city, it'll be 10 years in May. My plan was to only be here for for 3 years, because all I wanted to do was learn how to do real estate development.
And do it yourself.
Right, and learn it via the municipality. How do I get through the city, right, mayor's office, elected officials, all those things that, as a larger developer, these are some of the stuff that you need to do. So I'm going, okay, it shouldn't be a problem. It's not going to take me that long to figure this out. Oh yeah, my first community meeting, I realized, ooh, it's not going to be. It's not going to be easy because of the historical, sort of indiscretions, and we can talk redlining and all those types of things that deal with real estate. But I realized that coming into the position, I had to now look at what had been done in the past, not own it, so to speak, but really change the way we program so that folks would feel like we were transparent. That this process wasn't created behind closed doors. Exactly. And what that did was it put me in a position to do my job really on the ground. So I started, I'm going to everybody's community meeting. I'm meeting the butters to our lots who've had concerns or issues over the years that nobody responded to. I'm sitting in kitchens. And I use the term Miss Jenkins. That's a term of endearment. But there's seniors in our community that have questions. Nobody would answer Mrs. Jenkins' questions about that lot next door. So there was a lot that came to it, to doing this work, because I work for a housing development agency. And so I'm thinking, we can spread this out a little bit. And so it became an opportunity for me to get in the community and look at folks like you in the room who are interested in doing real estate, who want to be a developer or want to do something to kind of get in this space. I'm going, this is a grand opportunity, right? And so I've spent the last 10 years really trying, and I'm going to talk about a program we're doing now, of really trying to get more folks involved in the work that we're doing. Our work it's time consuming. It takes a while from a funding perspective. And some folks, it's the opportunity or the ability to do something in their neighborhoods where they grew up in, right? And so a lot of folks like to say, you know what? I lived on the street for so many years, that lot is available, I'd like to build something, right? And so we go through a process of really educating folks, on that. So as I said, I've been with the city for 10 years. We've had a number of programs, and I'm going to segue there a little bit.
Because could talk about that, because part of what I want to, come on there, Monica, sit right there. Part of what we want to do is have people get a sense of, and you hit on it, what exactly does it take for me to build or to buy in Boston because of the price, intimidation factors and things of that nature. So a lot of people start their career outside of the city, but I believe there are a lot of a lot of opportunities within the city, and so that's why I really want to have you talk about some of those things. So I'm giving you guys a segue as to why I brought Brother Donald in, because I wanted him to obviously give us that bigger perspective from a city perspective of how the city's thinking, but then also as a guy whose boots on the ground, who's very interested in building our community and building home ownership and building wealth. Because this is all about. It's about using real estate as a wealth creation tool, because that's what we want to do, correct? That's why y'all here tonight. And so that's why I want to have him come in. So talk about some of those things. So from a programming perspective, I'm going to talk about the new initiative. I'm not too sure if everybody had been aware of the press conference that Mayor Wu had on our, it's called Welcome Home Boston. It's our new home ownership initiative. We received some ARPA funding, which is really going to support this program. And the funding that we receive from the federal government will allow for us to increase our funding towards first-time home buyer classes like Home Buying 101, down payment assistance and closing costs as well. And typical funding that we would do, but now we can expand that.
Right, exactly. We can touch a number of more households. And as I talk about Welcome Home Boston, which is really, really exciting opportunity, what the mayor also did is she did a land audit. I'm not too sure if everyone is familiar with that in here, but what she wanted to do is get a general idea of what does the city's inventory look like, and what is it conducive for? Is it all commercial? Is it residential? Is that this, that, and the other? And so between the Boston Planning Agency and the Mayor's Office of Housing, we were able to consolidate, our data and get a general sense of what's out there. So Welcome Home Boston is the Mayor's Office of Housing's new first-time buyers, sort of development opportunity, right? Okay. So we're looking for developers, but also first-time home buyers. So we identified, roughly 150 parcels or so that are ideal for some relative form of development, single family, two family, and maybe even some 3-story structures or something to that effect. What we did was we started, and let me stop real quick. There's a QR code on here, so if you guys have noticed those QR codes, just scan your phone to it. Right. It'll take you to a landing page of the actual website that we have for this housing program. It also has an interactive map that would allow for you to kind of do a little data mining. Okay. Right, on your own, if there's a street that you're interested or what have you. But please take a look at the QR code and log in that way. But what we did was we identified an approach to how we would go about this, Pastor, right? And so what we wanted to do was we knew that there was some time constraints on these resources we received from the federal government, and that we had to now take on our process in a way that we hadn't done that before. Right. Typically, we go parcel by parcel. We sit down, we talk about this, we have a community meeting, we put out an RFP, and we kind of go back and forth. In this case, we're talking about roughly 150 parcels. Right. How are we going to do that? Right. In a way in which that's fair, equitable, et cetera. So we took on a big approach here, and we parceled out 70 or so parcels. We did a walking tour. We held first it was the announcement that the mayor made. Right. Then we had a community event at the Talbot at Boys and Girls Club on Talbot Ave. And what that gave us was an opportunity to do a charrette-styled community meeting where you got to talk to the design team. You talked to myself and Julio on Development 101. There was folks from MHIC and LIST, these are funding sources. And so you got the gamut, but the issue was we had to do it in a pretty short period of time. So our process was that one meeting. Then after that, we did a walking tour. It was freezing that day, and I want to thank the folks that came. It was real cold that day. But we had a really just nice time. Again, it was really cold. And I brought this sign for a reason. We didn't post them all up around the city. We are going to get them up. But we did post probably about 7 or 8 of these during that walking tour, that route. So the constituency would see that there's some activity, and what we do is we post these on the sites themselves. Right. Great opportunity. And so what we're doing now is looking to get the RFP out for these first 70. We're still doing some internal vetting on what that request for proposal is going to look like. Right. But I would say that, the folks, before I segue, is if you're interested, and two sides of this, right? If you're a first-time home buyer, great opportunity for you here. Right. But if you're also interested in taking on a role as developer, if you're interested in forming a joint venture and you got some folks that, you could really put together a development team and maybe take this on, great opportunity as well. Right. The city's a little different than the private market, a whole lot different. So I will be clear with that. But, some great opportunities there.
And I think Donald said a number of things that, you have to take advantage of opportunities while the opportunity is there. And a lot of times what I sense dealing with people is that they first of all, they don't get a chance to find out the opportunities are available, number one. And number two, they're slow to take advantage for whatever reason. And so part of what needs to happen is being in rooms like this, is us partnering and getting a sense of, hey, what are you interested in? What are you interested in? And then let's pool our resources together, whether it be economic or work-related, as far as people, trades and things of that nature, and put together teams. And so joint ventures and partnerships. Listen, everything, y'all, is partnerships. Everything is partnerships. If you try to go this business alone, you will get your clock clean, so to speak. But partnerships allow you to go a lot faster. And so obviously you got to vet people, and y'all got to get them on the same page and all that. But in my experience, and people that I talk to and see who are really having some serious success, it's because they're getting involved in partnerships. And so part of what we want to do, and part of get a sense of what I had Donald come in for, is what is a successful partnership? What is the city of Boston looking for? So if I'm coming to a table as a developer, what are you guys looking for from my development team?
So I'll tell you, Pastor, we this is very general. You want to structure a team with folks literally, if your sweet spot is finance, then you're going to be the finance guy on the team. You definitely want somebody like that.
Right.
You want folks with various skill sets, and you really want to be able to. It may not be your best friend or the guy you have coffee with. Like the pastor said, you need to do some research.
Yeah.
I put together a joint venture workshop a number of years ago with the old office of OED, which is EOI now, excuse me. And
now, some of those,
the acronyms.
Break them down. Break down the acronyms. RFP,
equity, right? So I'm going to do that, right? RFP is a request for proposal. You'll hear me use that interchangeably as well. But what I realize in this process is that if I'm putting out a housing program, what I'm looking for folks to build it. And what I heard from the development community, especially in the black and brown folks, is that we don't have the folks that, I know how to build the house, but I don't know how to underwrite it. I know how to build the house, but I don't know zoning code. All these little things that kept people from responding, right? And so what I wanted to do was have a workshop where folks could look at an RFP, go through that, had a consultant come in.
Okay.
And really go through an RFP. But what I wanted to do is say, you're a plumber, you're an electrician, how much skin can you have in the game?
Right.
Like how does that work when you're building a residential unit, right? And that's why I thought it made sense. Building a house, a two-family, a single, or what have you, is more palatable,
right.
For a smaller group or something like that, right? When you're starting out.
It ain't Avalon.
Yeah, no, not at all.
No, you know that level. Yeah.
But the outcome of that was folks had a better understand about structuring a team, because there's certain things that I'm going to look for, and as you respond to a request for proposal, we're going to look at your development team in and of itself, your design concept, your schedule. Is your project feasible, right? And so if you don't have it, well, you have to have an architect on your team. I was going to say if you don't have one, there's a problem, but it's the same thing on the finance side. If you're trying to use funding sources you're not familiar with, then you've got to get someone that is, right? And so if you're going to use, tax credits and you have no idea what that's about,
you don't even know what a tax credit is.
Then you have to consult folks. If you are trying to get in, and my colleagues over in neighborhood housing development really deal with this, is really trying to line up proposals, awards, et cetera, with the timeline for state funding, right? And so when you think about it, you want your project to be designated. You want to be able to come in for a funding round, because if you're coming in and doing an affordable project, I don't expect you to be backing up the truck with tons of resources. What you're trying to do is acquire some of those funding sources, so you're not out. And so what we've been able to do, I would say, is paint a picture over the years, right? This is what a good team looks like. If you respond to a request for proposal, what typically I like to do is, if you're not awarded, then I want you to come back in and we want to go through your proposal and identify some of the weaknesses in there. I'm going to tell you a secret. It's not really a secret, folks. But if you're going to respond to a proposal of any sort with a municipality, ask for the most recent awarded proposal of that sort. You see, it's public record. So you call, email, it's basically kind of like a FOIA request.
That's your cheat sheet.
Yeah. So that's a procurement contract, that's an RFP, an RFQ, or what have you. It's public record. So you guys can ask for that, copies of it.
Okay.
And that works as well.
Sweet. No, that's real good to know.
Yeah.
Because because there's a precedence that's been set, and so basically you follow the precedence of who won before you, and just following that to your best of your ability.
You figure you sharpen your pencil, but then also at the same time you cost escalations, et cetera. Your material costs, labor costs are going to go. So all these things you can factor in, but it gives you a guide.
Right.
And if you weren't thinking, oh man, I needed to do this part of the proposal or that, then there you go. Right. So again, I'm also going to say this on the project management side. Anytime somebody puts out a bid opportunity, a request for proposal, and information for bid, et cetera, there's a project manager's name on there.
Right.
Please call that person just to introduce yourself.
Right.
Even if you don't have a question to ask, I've asked this so many times. Did you reach out to the project manager? No. Why not? Did you have questions about the proposal? Yes, I did. I was stuck on this, I was stuck on that, and then did you reach out to the project manager? So please, folks, please reach out to the project manager and submit your proposal when it's done. You don't have to wait until the due date, the deadline.
Right.
Don't. When you're done, send.
Okay.
That's just a little tidbit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm taking notes, y'all. All right. Questions? Anybody got questions? Usually y'all got a lot of questions. You got a lot of questions. Can you hand that microphone, John?
How are you?
Okay. Thank you for that. I have a question in regards to, they say the median income in Boston is something 100,000 or something like that. But when I look at the black and brown people that I know, the median income is probably about 50, 65, somewhere between there, nowhere near, and that's a stretch. Right. How is it that we could buy property in Boston when everything is so high? Like, how do you, because a lot of the younger generation is getting discouraged because they're like, I can't buy anything here. I just have to go.
Right.
And us who already own our property and paying way less mortgage than what they're paying for rent, an apartment, is like, how do you encourage them?
Right. So are you done? Yeah. Okay. I would say let's not discourage them and talk about how bad it is, but actually put them in a position to better understand the dynamics of it. Right. If you just want to be a first-time home buyer and live in your neighborhood, that's very different than being an investor or something like that in that same neighborhood. What I will say is we are fortunate in that, and the housing stock that we create in the Mayor's Office of Housing goes from homeless set aside, and those AMIs, area median incomes, which is what you're referring to, and based on the project, it'll have various levels of AMI. Right, and so home ownership or a rental project, they will list those AMIs out, and they will also list out what those either sales prices might be or what those rent levels might be at the same time. What the challenge is the fact that there's so many people vying for those same units, right? And so what we're trying to do is keep up pace, right? Is try to get these units out. But I'm going to encourage, all the folks to reach out to the Boston Home Center. And I bought some stuff, and I'm going to send over some stuff to Pastor that he can circulate with you guys. But the Boston Home Center is a great place to start. That's what a Home Buying 101 course is. We have housing fairs where you get to meet with the lenders, and you get to ask those really tough questions. Stuff that you may want to whisper to somebody. My credit might be like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so what we want to do is put you in an environment where any and everyone are in the room, and you can have these conversations, and it's really a fun event. I mean, it's a family-friendly event when you do these, and in conjunction with. We have units that can be shown at that time. It's even better. Okay. And I've seen some folks, go into some of our construction sites where, close to getting a CO, CO's gotten, and then we can get some folks in. That's when it really makes the difference, when you can see the stock that we're building. For a number of folks that are in the city, whether it be Dorchester, Roxbury, Mattapan, used to be able to say, oh, that's a city house. Okay. Yeah, I know that's a city house. I hear it all the time. But what we've done is really try to address those design concerns, material concerns, and that sort of thing in the request for proposal, so that your that house that's being built is one contextually like the one that may be next to it or across the street, but also is going to withstand some of the elements that we've seen that shit paint and all that other stuff. So we're definitely building a better stock now.
Yeah. Good. Any other questions out there? I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Talk about the properties. Like I was in Roxbury the other day, and I saw a couple properties this property in particular was a fire burn property, and it had the city of Boston on it. How do you get involved with those properties, type of properties?
So anytime, you understanding this, when a house burns, like when there's a fire, you've got to go through all this sort of legal stuff. You got to go through your insurance and your mortgage company and all that stuff. So that stuff very much so takes a period of time. I think in particular when you talk about parcels that you've seen, man, that house been bought up for a long time. Yeah. So the city has really been, over the years, and I've heard this even before I came, where the city was really trying to get to some of those absentee owners who just kind of let those buildings sit for quite some time. Now the good part about it is we don't see as many as we did probably in the 90s or something like that. But what the city does, and again I kind of go back to the beginning, is the way in which the Mayor's Office of Housing acquires property is through tax foreclosure and surplus, right? So if a school building comes online, like we just put out the Pride in Hyde Park, which is that senior LGBTQ residence. So there's that. We have, I'm trying to think of another good one for you. Anyway, but what I will say is that in the midst of creating these opportunities, we want to make sure, right, that not only does everybody know about them, that folks have access to them, right? So it's not just home buying 101, it's all the support that comes with it. What you get then is a relationship that you started before you even bought the house with folks, right? And so you're now starting to be a little bit more comfortable. That credit conversation ain't that hard no more, right? After you had the initial one, and you know what you have to do, right? Trying to deal with sort of, do I need to buy an owner occupied side by side? What does that owner occupied thing mean? And when can I sell? These are all questions that we answer for you, right? So we put you in a space to be able to address, a lot of that. I don't want folks to go, okay, well, I don't want to buy a house now, I just want to wait. You still want to get the information. So if right now is not the ideal time for you, still go to the Boston Home Center, do the one-on-one, and then you at least will have the knowledge, because part of that is, what are your patterns in life going to be like once you have this knowledge? Are you going to be charging up stuff on a credit card? Are you going to be, you know what I'm saying? So once you have the knowledge, you're going to move a little differently, right? You're going to be able to assess.
At this level.
Yeah, you're going to be able to start looking at the homes that you're interested in through a very different lens, right? And then maybe you go, okay, well, you know what? Can I save a little bit more? Maybe get something bigger. Like, what is it that you can do? Please understand, and I'm gonna go back to the AMIs, is that there's a lot that goes with that, right? And so if you're gonna be in an income restricted home, you've got to understand the details of those restrictions. And they'll talk to you guys about that. Resale restrictions, et cetera. These are very important things. It's not just getting in the home and going, oh, okay, when you want to pull out some equity, they go, oh, you can't do that in the same way you do it. And so understanding the product that you're getting into is really important.
And I think that has been, I won't say the challenge, but getting people to first of all of this is a mindset. I was looking at I forgot the Don Peoples, big time developer. Anybody heard that name? In this Don Peoples? If you know anything about, if you haven't, you need to look him up. He is the Mac as far as developing is concerned. But one of the things he said was home ownership for African Americans is either at the same level or even lower than it was during the civil rights movement.
Yeah.
So that's crazy to think about all the advances that we've made, been able to vote and, sit at counters and all those type of things, but we still are lagging behind in home ownership. And home ownership, I always tell you guys, I believe home ownership and real estate just in general is the lowest hanging fruit on the wealth building tree. Meaning you don't even have to know what you're doing half the time. It can build wealth through real estate. So the thing is, part of what we're looking to do is how can we, and what Don was talking about, what could we do if we strategically had the education and strategically took the right steps to buy property, and then, as Vanessa was saying, showed how the next generation how to do that, and then build off that, because that's what people doing. People either acquire their wealth through real estate or keep it. That's the bottom line. And so I think your point of, first of all, don't get discouraged. And even some of you in here tonight, you probably said, Dexter, man, I ain't even got my first, I don't even have my own primary route. You talking about developing parcels and all that, but, and what you have to do is any new thing you're learning, you just got to hang in there for a little while. Learn a terminology. There is a language of capital. See, that's what you're talking about. Yeah. Different languages of capital, languages of the trades, languages of how to buy. And a lot of times, because we haven't learned the language, we first of all stay intimidated, but then we don't take advantage. And I'll end on this. I had a member of our church just texted me Sunday and said, Pastor, my nephew is buying a house now. She just bought her property in Brockton like two or 3 years ago, and she was like for years had been renting. And then now she was a Jackie Robinson, and then now her nephew was buying. He's buying in South Carolina. So the thing is, once one person does it opens the door and gives other people permission to be able to step through that door. And so that's why I'm using you guys as disciples and advocates, saying, hey, look, man, come get this information. Come, let's do deals together, because once the people in your sphere of influence see you doing it, it's going to give them permission to do it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So.
I tell, if I can say this, Pastor, I tell my son, who the pastor knows, he's in a very different position than I was. I was fortunate in that my mother built the house when I was I was out the house though by that time. I was in the military at that point.
But at least she built it.
But that was right.
But she built it.
I watched her go through getting things together. I didn't know what that was back at the time, all the stuff on the dinner table and her stressing and looking, oh man. But the benefit of it was the family barbecue, the first time. And I look back on that now and I go, you planted a seed, whether you realized it or not, because when I was able to walk around and say, oh, my mother just built the house.
Built the house.
It wasn't a super big house, but she built it from the foundation up. That's big, right? And so I'm saying that to my friends, and I didn't realize how much it had meant, to me. Right. And then I started, okay, well, and Pops is, he's always doing something. And I'm like, wow, this real estate thing, but not deep.
Yeah.
And until it became apparent.
Right.
I traveled quite a bit. One of the most fascinating trips I took to was to China to see some of those cities, neighborhoods that were built and unoccupied. I was amazed to be able to walk down, and I forget the gentleman's name. He's one of the top real estate developers there, and he gave us a tour, and it was literally some of the most beautiful housing stock, retail spaces and the whole nine, but they were unoccupied. Right. And getting the history behind, how we got there. Right. Just the interest. I think the interest alone, that you have in wanting to do real estate and all, you can find your space in this. You can find your place to do some aspect of this. And I tell my son that all the time. Look, man, you don't have to be the real estate guy, but you could definitely be on a development team. You can be working on the residential services side. This bandwidth is huge. So when we talk underwriting, most of us don't know what all entails underwriting, right? If we want to talk about design, if we want to just talk about the construction side, if we want to just talk about zoning, there's a specialty in zoning, right? Understanding all these nuances about what? Building something, right? And so when you get the knowledge, you're off to the races.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people all the time. There's so many different ways you can get involved in this business, and that's sort of part of the problem too. Yeah. Because it can be very overwhelming. One minute I want to be an agent. Okay, next minute I want to be an inspector. The next minute I want to flip houses. The next minute I want to, and it's like you. One of the things I'm telling people to do, and I'm telling you guys this. Focus on one thing this year. I'm gonna learn this aspect of real estate, and then matter of fact, there's an acronym for focus. It says, I think stay fixed on. Oh my God, I'll look it up later. But basically, it's saying stay on one thing and then learn something else. And a lot of times you can get your head all turned around, and then they say this in sales, but it's also, I think, it works in just in anything in life. It says this. A confused mind never buys, but a confused mind never takes action either. And so, this year you may say, you know what? This is the year we're going to get that rental property. This is the year I'm going to buy my such and such. This is the year I'm going to purchase that condo. Now, once you got that mindset and that intent, I'm not thinking about 10,000. I may gather the information. I may just stick it in a folder, but I'm not going to have my head in 10 different directions, because you can't go in 10 different directions at one time. When we first started, what we focused on was, most of you guys know I love New Bedford. That's where we've done most of our work at now. We're looking at getting some stuff done in the city. But I was like, let's get this one property. Okay. And then that one property became my school. I tell people, how do you learn how to deal with tenants? You got to deal with them. Because all this stuff we're talking about right now is really conceptual. It's conceptual. And you start with the concept of it, but how you learn how to deal with contractors, you got to deal with contractors. How you learn how to flip, you got to flip a house. How you learn how to be a landlord, you got to be a landlord. So this is not a business that you can learn passively and off to the side. You got to be involved. And so whatever you decide this year to do, to get started on, I'm going to focus on that. Everything else I'm gonna put to the side. So Brother Donald brought us a whole bunch of information. Amen, I got that, but I might not be ready for that. But whatever the one thing that he gave you, or will give you going forward, I'm gonna latch on to that, and I'm gonna get all the information I can, and begin to take. Some of y'all go to my church, and so one thing I talked about on Sunday was taking these baby steps. For some of us, it's going to be baby steps. For some of y'all just need to rip the Band-Aid off, so let's get it on, because you got packets and notes, and you done been to conferences. You got everything, man, please. You know everything. Matter of fact, you could say it better than the conference speaker at this point. You matter of fact, I could teach the class. So there's some of us who just, because you get paralyzed with all the information that you get. And listen, at some point, you've got to make a move. You got to make a step. Now, obviously, you do due diligence and all that, so we're not talking about doing anything stupid. But fear has grabbed some, not saying you guys, fear has grabbed some people, and it has intimidated them and has hindered them from moving. Just like, listen, once you getting your first piece of property, whether it's your residential or an investment, is life-changing. What did I say? Life-changing. Once you get your first, I don't care what it is on either side, because even if you bought on your residential, dude, if you bought one house, can't you buy two? Can't you buy three? But a lot of times what we do is we buy the first house and then we get comfortable. I'm made it. You ain't arrived yet. Like, really? You ain't? All you got is one? No, and I'm just saying. I'm just saying. If you want to flow in a real estate vein, but like, dude, okay, if you got one, my next question to you, I'll let you chill for like a month or two, and then I'm like, okay, when you gonna buy your next one? Because, there's so much opportunity. This is the guy from the city. Hey, the city looking for people to help us out. We need developers. We need people who can build. We need people. You're like, hello, ting-a-ling-ling-ling-ling-ling. Listen, opportunity is sitting right in front of you. Yeah. And a lot of times we complain, the black man, this white man, this, and ladies, this, and all. Do opportunity sitting right in front of you. But it's a mindset change and a mindset shift. Y'all got me preaching to y'all, and I'm not trying to go there. y'all quiet and looking at us. I'm like, I'm trying not to preach to you tonight, but I got to wake you up and get you to say, hey, man, this has got to be your year. Yeah. You've been sitting, and no, this is the year to get started, to buy something. That's why I'm proud of Vanessa. She went to Georgia and bought something. I was like, listen, I don't care. At least she bought something somewhere.
There you go. And I would say to that, Pastor, I mean, if buy something.
Buy something. Condo, something. Land, something.
Yeah,
I don't care what it is.
Buy a piece of land. Right? I mean, start somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I remember this was military time. We started an investment club. That was an old school term.
Yeah, exactly. But it works.
The whole point was, dude, I only got $5.
Right.
How much you got?
Right.
You got 3?
I got 10.
And you got, okay. So what
Let's
can we do with it?
Exactly.
Right? And I wish we could kind of go back to that to some degree, because we all
and some people are doing that in certain towns.
And it's working for them. It's working.
Dude, it's working.
We get caught up sometimes, I want an equity stake. I want the biggest stake at the table. But you don't have the biggest.
You ain't there yet, bro.
Yeah, so just come in. That's what I say. Look, if you got a property management business, but you can't get on a deal, but it's a 200-unit building, then why not you be the property manager?
Right.
Right? So that's how you just gotten the deal. So when the proposal comes out, who's the property manager? You.
Dude, yeah.
So everything goes through.
Right.
Your operating numbers and everything are great, then you're good. But that's how you get in.
Right.
And so the next
word.
developer, right?
I gotta get in.
Yeah. So what happens is when you respond to a bid with the city, you gotta put this team together. You have to put this team together. And so if you're not out actively marketing yourself as a member of a team, right? Saying, look, I'm an architect.
Right.
And I'm willing to work with anybody in here. Right? Or I'm a GC.
Right.
I'm willing to work with anybody here, or I'm a zoning attorney. I'm willing. And so I see folks that I wouldn't think would team up on a team. I just got a call last week from 2 guys, never thought they would be on a team, but they're working together after them both individually going through a number of projects and getting to a place like, oh, okay, the reason I didn't like this person didn't make sense.
Right.
Because he bid and I bid, it's not about that. Right. Look at us, we're now working together. So again, going back to where you fit in that team, there's a space for you.
Yeah.
And I throw another one on there, snow removal, right? So you're not even part of the overall, but he's now managing, right? He's managing the building, the property. He needs a snow contractor.
Right.
You a snow contractor. So now you just built it. So as you're going in to do the deal, you know that what you have to do is you got to take care of the snow and you got to take care of landscaping. So part of your proposal and your response is, I got this team for landscape, I got this team for snow, or they're both doing it. These are my numbers, and you run from there. But that's the opportunity to bring others to the table to make you look a little stronger. Right. Nothing wrong with that. Right. At all.
And I think it's where we miss a lot of times. We don't think creatively enough. So to your point of, I got $5,000, I got $10,000, I got $20,000. So when I'm talking to people, so how much can you put up? I got $20,000, Pastor. I got 30. Well, okay. If we pooled our monies on some level, obviously you got to have vet people and all that. So I'm always up because I've seen that on the other side. People, I trusted them like, ooh, that's stupid.
Yeah.
I don't trust nobody but my wife. I got my eye on her sometimes. She ain't here tonight, that's why I can say it. Usually she here. She may be watching. I'm just playing, baby. But no, obviously we got to vet ourselves. But listen, partnerships, and that's why I'm bringing us together, because I want us to do bigger deals together at some point. Yeah. It starts out getting the old thing, but listen, to what he's talking about, 200 unit and up and things of that nature, man. That's a whole different stratosphere you playing in there. Yeah. But the bottom line is all real estate, y'all. It's all land. Yeah. God ain't making no more land. He's not good at English, but good preaching. Yeah. God ain't making no more land. Mm-hmm. So those of us who can buy land and wholesale it, flip it, develop it, landlord it, that's where your wealth is. Yeah. That's where this is about creating leverage for yourself. And so that's what we got to do. But to get rid of the fear, the education piece helps to get rid of the fear, and then the small actions and the teamwork and the community helps you to do that.
Get your kids involved.
Yeah.
Got to get your kids involved. Some some way educate them. Kids right now are savvy. They're out making their own money right now. I don't know the social media stuff that well, but supposedly they're making some money on and being an influencer, et cetera. But they're starting to understand the economics right now about the real world.
Listen.
They know that there are resources to be made out there. I had a conversation with my son. I said, DJ, you're 20 years old right now. You'll be a senior next year. This year, like you said, the beginning of the year, right? I said, everything that I do this year, you're sitting at the table with me. I want you to be in earshot. I want you to hear it. I'm gonna have you read. You know, I'm like literally everything. When I was in business school, I used to have him read my reports. I'm like, dude, come on. There's a study for you. I need you to read it. He didn't know what he was reading. But the whole point was, you know, putting something in front of him. So now all those case studies that I gave him are coming to fruition. Because he's a mathematician, right? So I'm like, okay, my finance guy. So I need him at the table, right, to understand it. But again, this is a kid, and like for those of us who already own property and that we're gonna leave them to our kids, they're coming in this game better off than we did. Right? And so we've got to educate them because it's generational wealth. It's not for them to get and sell. Come on, I'm telling my son, I said, dude, you know what's positive cash flow you're gonna have here and I said it's only gonna get better.
It's only gonna appreciate.
So what do we do about that? You bring them to the table. So if you got young ones, make it a game. Monopoly was the one game in my house. My son, he was, and we had the credit card version, right? So that, so that kind of helped, right? Because when he got to college, he was like, "Yeah, Dad, no credit card right now." I go, "Yeah, because it ain't Monopoly money. It's real at this point.
It's a real deal here, right?
Yeah.
It's a real
So,
deal here.
you know, and I thought about that this year, that it was really important. And my daughter has her own business.
Okay.
But she's down south, so that's how they roll down south, right? And so we want to educate our kids, give them what knowledge and resources that we have, and allow them to flourish with it.
Exactly.
You know, allow them to trip up a little bit and make a mistake here and there.
But you right there to catch them if something.
Yeah. And it's got, because we're thinking about wealth creation.
Right.
So that's a uniform conversation for folks in the room.
Right.
So why can't your kids be a part of it?
They need to be there.
You know?
They there asking.
Oh yeah. Because here's the thing: when they mess up, they coming to you. So why not? Yeah.
No, dude. You need to be part of the wealth creation conversation.
Yeah.
You know, and so it is about real estate, but it's also about financial literacy and financial education, and the knowledge that we need in order to not just survive, but more importantly to thrive. That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Questions? If not, we're gonna end this show. I don't believe in beating a dead horse.
Well, let me throw. Go ahead. I'm gonna add some other stuff to it. But go ahead.
So I got a couple questions for you.
Sure.
One is about.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jonathan.
Thank you. How's that?
That's good.
All right. So I have basically three questions for you. One is. So I have a master's in sustainability, and I studied sustainable architecture and design.
Nice.
And I know that the city of Boston wants to be net zero by 2030.
2030. Yeah.
But I see all these new buildings going up, and I don't see radiant floor heating. I don't see ground source heat pumps, and I don't see nearly thick enough walls to make these net zero energy buildings. But we can. Right. So what I'm wondering is, what's are there any incentives? One, are there any incentives? And two, like why aren't these buildings being built as net zero energy buildings when we have the knowledge and ability? Right.
I think right now, and this is not my wheelhouse, so I don't want to overspeak. But what I would say is understanding relative timing and when things were permitted, right? And so it takes a while to get a project to a specific space or state or stage, and so. If some of the projects that you happen to go by and you're wondering, well, how come this has happened? That may be one of the factors. I know in MOH, part of what we want to see that, right? And I have Jay Lee's one of our, he's our associate director of design, phenomenal, always an advocate, right? And really, kind of pushing us and not driving up costs, right? So energy efficiency needs to be the driver, not the cost of providing the energy efficiency. And so I think, Mayor's Office of Housing, as well as the Boston Planning Development Agency, are really looking at this through a lens and really identifying ways in which, I believe, for these projects to kind of get on that course. Projects, obviously, that are coming to the table, basically, is what it is. Yeah.
How would I get involved if I wanted to get involved in making sure and like helping people make more energy efficient buildings?
You want a job in the city? I'm because the city's hiring, so I just put that out there like everybody else. But I think how are you involved with the Boston Society of Architects, BSA? I mean, are you because that to me, I've kind of followed my interests from time to time. I love design. So I'll sit in on workshops and things that they're doing now. I spoke there not too long ago. But if you're interested in certain, if you're interested in meetings, say, I'm trying to think who the city's person is. Shoot me an email. What I'll do is definitely make the connection, and you can kind of, spell out, how you would like for me to navigate it. But got to get in front of folks is really what it is, because you have the background.
Yeah, and I'm so passionate about it. Every time I'm driving by these cities, by the buildings, I'm looking at them just like that's not enough insulation.
Yeah. What part of the city? Because they're doing some great work in like Highland Park, and I have a buddy of mine who's a passive house builder, and
he has
does
a passive house.
Yeah,
nice.
he's phenomenal. He just built 4 units.
Okay.
And
nice.
Costs a little bit. So
the other couple questions I have is
you this is your third, man. You got a couple questions. Offline, we can talk offline too.
Yeah. I guess I'm gonna have to ask these other questions offline. But
one
of the other questions I have is about getting into ownership. Mm-hmm. Don't own a building yet.
Yep.
And is like the best way, like cost effectively, to be able to get a building to own is to find, either burnt down property or And
the reason why I say that, a lot of folks want to come to the city because they think the city's got this whole cachet of inventory that they the city is bound from a land disposition standpoint by Mass Law Chapter 30B in the way in which we dispose of property. And so I can't sell it to you, but what I can do is put out a request for proposal, and he can bid on it just like you, and I'm just going to use this evaluation criteria by which, I decide who's going to be the designated developer. So, I mean, that's part of it.
All right. Thank you, John.
I just want to say one plug, Pastor.
Go.
This is and this is for folks, obviously in the audience or online. If you have a business, if you have snow removal, landscaping, if you could do fence repair, if you're a plumber, electrician, a painter, call me. Okay. And the reason why I say that is there's a phenomenal push for equity and procurement in the city of Boston. Okay. And we're taking strides to find folks to do the work, but there's not enough.
Still
right?
looking.
So still looking. So if you are a small contractor and you just want to know, give me a call. Okay. I mean, it's definitely worth it. I can tell you some really great success stories of guys I've met on the street, and literally watch their businesses scale up 2-3-fold, by working with the city. I have a ton of contract opportunities that call as needed contracts. They're $50,000 a piece. I do about 15 or 20 of those every fiscal year. So, but definitely reach out. I can be a conduit to some of the other agencies that do very similar work that we do, but also just overall on the procurement side. So if you have some, interest, just give me a buzz, shoot me an email, give me a call.
Okay. Where can they find you, man? Donald.wright@boston.gov is my email address. I'm in the Mayor's Office of Housing. My cell phone number is 617-991-7164. Give me a call there, or 635-617-635-0398. All right. And you on LinkedIn, any of the social medias?
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, that's just, and it's Donald Wright. I don't,
Okay.
you know, yeah. Yep, 617-991-7164. Yep. And really, folks, reach out. Don't hesitate.
And he, I'm an amen. You. He sincerely means it. I mean, I had someone who had a tax issue that I had them call down to, because he obviously he works with the city, but he can point you in the right direction. You know, so if you do have a question, he will respond, email, whatever it may be. And so, you know, he's not just somebody who's saying, he's someone who I've personally seen calls back, emails you back, and so on and so forth. So it's important.
Can you say your email address, please?
Sure, it's Donald, DONALD, .Wright, WRIGHT, @boston.gov.
All right. Well, that could, go ahead, sir.
I'm sorry. I also want to talk about some of the other
But
programs.
no, go ahead. We got
sorry.
I think we got 3 minutes.
Okay,
So you
good.
get a minute. Yeah, you got
So
three
there's a program for seniors. It's the Boston Senior Saves program. There's also a Lead Safe program. There's a foreclosure prevention. That's also in the Mayor's Office of Housing. Yep, and that's it for right now. But as I mentioned earlier, as part of some of the work, so you have the senior home repair. There's additional dwelling units, so that's you put on your you put on your developer hat and get into that one, and foreclosure counseling. And so I want you guys to know that there are resources out there. If you got some seniors in and around where you're at, any home issues, windows, roofs, stairs, heating, all that, please reach out. And I can email you all this stuff, you know, so you have it.
All right. Give it up for my brother, Donald L. Wright.
Thank you, Pastor.
All right. So our next meeting, you guys know, we meet on what? Third Tuesdays of every month. So I haven't scheduled my guests for February yet. So I'll let you guys know. As a matter of fact, I got some things on my heart. I may just take that session myself.
There you go.
And talk about a few things to get us ready for 2024. But I definitely want to kick off with Donald because I know what the city's trying to do, and so I want to make sure that we got that perspective. Then also, can you hold up that? I don't have it. Actually, hold up that right there. That's my resource. That's my course that my wife and I just came out with. It's the Getting Started Real Estate Bundle. So a couple of you guys have already bought it, but listen, God's not gonna let you into heaven unless you buy that. I'm just playing. But in all seriousness, if you sat down with me and asked me what I've learned in these 5 or 6 or 7 years I've been doing it, it's all in that course, and it cost me probably close to $50,000 for everything I've learned, and I put it in that. And then also, if you want to sit down with me one-on-one afterwards, that's part of that package. I've sat with the Perkins and we talk about some things. Then I've sat with Sister Della and talked about a couple things. And so make sure you get that, because I'm not into just selling courses. What I want to do is get the education out to you and then actually get you started this year. This is your year. Come on now. This is your year to buy. Something like that, land, condo, barn, dog house, something. This is your year to buy something. So this has been Dexter B. Jenkins, and this is the Let's Talk Real Estate. We will see you guys next month. Bye-bye. All right.
I want to introduce you to Jay Lee. He's our architect, staff architect.